Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the November 28th Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting. We have a number of committee members who are with us in chambers today, Sherry and Mr. Waldman. So sorry. And we do have a few who are virtually online with us. We have Lawrence and Ted. And Shala is there too, and Councillor Davidson, and we have Councillor Thompson joining us as well. So our Accessibility Advisory Committee meetings are being held in a hybrid meeting form at this time. The public can observe meetings of council and committees by attending in person in the council chambers or by viewing the live stream of the open session part of the meetings, which can be accessed on the city's website or on the city's YouTube page. Please note, we have not received any regrets for this afternoon's meeting. The public had the opportunity to submit written correspondence regarding agenda items by email to the clerk's office. All written correspondence received by noon yesterday would have been included on the agenda, but there was none received. The public also had the opportunity to apply to appear as either an in-person or electronic delegation by noon yesterday to be included in the agenda, but no delegation requests were received. And Simon, that's your name. I had a long COVID brain moment there. Okay, so as the committee chair, I will now call the meeting to order. And if I could have a member of committee, please move for the adoption of the agenda. Sherry, thank you very much. So moved. All those in favor, raise your hands. Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries unanimously. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none. We have item 4.1 is the adoption of previous minutes. Minutes Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting AAC 0224 held September 26, 2024A, that the minutes of the Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting AAC 0224 held September 26, 2024 be adopted. Could I have a mover for that? Thank you, Mr. Waldman. I gather that everybody has read their minutes. Is there any comment from anybody? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries unanimously. Thank you. We have no delegations and we'll move straight to our scheduled business. Item 6.1, we have today's business is two presentations, which I'm really looking forward to from our staff, and I'll waste no more time and just introduce them. So 6.1 is a presentation by Mohammed Kashani, Manager Design and Construction, and Hubert Ng, Manager Transportation and Traffic, regarding an annual Infrastructure Delivery Division update on active projects. Please note, this is a 35-minute visual presentation. Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mohammed Kashani. Our focus is enhancing the city's infrastructure from parks and roads to bridges and sidewalks. Thank you for having us. Let's dive into the presentation agenda. Last year, I presented our annual report to you, highlighting the relevant legislation, standards, and stressing the importance of engagement. Today, we will touch on those points briefly before diving into updates on completed and upcoming construction projects, along with active design projects. And my colleague also will talk about the traffic safety and operation strategy, or for short, TSOS. We will conclude with a Q&A session. The Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act, or for short, AODA, guides our work. The integrated accessibility standard regulation sets detailed accessibility standards. Richmond Hill follows an accessibility policy and procedure document. Design and construction guidelines and parks plan prioritizing inclusivity and accessibility. Our goal is to ensure equal opportunities and full participation for everyone. In the next few slides, we will showcase various accessibility features implemented across our projects, including tactile plates at crossings, accessible sidewalk with proper surfacing and slope, and accessible furniture. We also incorporated accessible playground elements like ramps, swings, and play structures in our park projects that you can see on this screen. Also, accessible surfaces and signage to inform users of accessible trails and facilities. For instance, you can see the rubber surfacing and wood chip or engineering wood fiber that deemed to be accessible surfaces. Also, you can see the accessible furnitures and trails, and also signage to inform of the users. Last year, we successfully completed projects such as walkway illumination, parks and trails enhancing pedestrian connections. Key projects like Richmond Hill David Dunlop Observatory Park Assignment Number 2 and McLeod State Trail linkage improved walkability and connectivity. Our projects like park structure repairs and Dove Park revitalization aimed at making public spaces more accessible and inclusive. This year, most of these projects are done by now. Annual sidewalk programs to fill sidewalk gaps for accessible pathways. Park completed are Minthorn, Raccoon, Palmer, and Kozak Park, and Harding Park is near completion. Additional pedestrian crossovers for safer and more accessible crossings been completed. Also, I'm pleased to report that the City of Richmond Hill has received a $100,000 grant through the Enabling Accessibility Fund to improve accessibility at Kozak Park's play area. This revitalization project included the installation of concrete ramp, replacement of the sand surfacing with engineering wood fiber, and the addition of transfer platforms on play structures. These upgrades ensure that children of all abilities can enjoy physical, sensory, and social play, removing both physical and social barriers and creating an inclusive space for all ages to play together. Also, we have secured $45,000 through the 2024-2025 Inclusive Community Grant Program to enhance accessibility at the Lake Wilcox Fish and Wildlife Sanctuary. This project initiated with input from this group, from the Accessibility Advisory Committee, that include a ramp to boardwalk has been installed, benches will be installed soon, and wayfinding signage which will be installed early next year to remove barriers and promote inclusivity. These enhancements align with the program's goal of increasing accessibility to outdoor spaces, fostering equitable access for people of all ages and ability while creating a welcoming green space in the community. Now I would like to hand it over to my colleague, Mr. Ng, to cover the traffic safety improvement elements.
Thank you, Mr. Kashani. My name is Hubert Ng, and I'm the Manager of Transportation and Traffic at the City of Richmond Hill. Building on what my friend has noted, accessibility and AODA requirements play a critical role in the traffic safety portfolio as well. The city has recently implemented traffic calming measures at 18 locations, 3 in each ward across the city, together with some intersection improvements based on the traffic safety and operations strategy that was approved in late 2023. Here is a sample cross-section of the traffic calming improvements on Valley Mead, where speed cushions have been installed to slow vehicular traffic down. And I want to highlight that these would not impact accessibility. And pavement markings have also been installed to make bike lanes more accessible for cyclists to use. This slide illustrates a sample intersection improvement at Crosby Avenue and Osiris Drive. For this particular improvement, ladder crosswalks were implemented to enhance visibility of the crossing to both drivers and pedestrians. We ensured that the width of the crossing meets AODA requirements. Other accessibility elements, including tactile plates and/or curb depressions, were also included as well. The figure on the left illustrates flexible bollards used as curb extensions, together with tactile plates as an accessibility element. The figure illustrates another use of flexible bollards to calm traffic down. I've highlighted this to demonstrate that this improvement would not have an impact on accessibility since they are at mid-block locations. And with that, I'll pass it back to my friend to finish up the presentation.
Thanks, Mr. Ng. Just to continue, the ongoing projects focus on enhancing accessibility, including sidewalks, walkway illumination, pedestrian crossovers, and traffic signals. Road reconstruction projects such as Maple Grove and Wendy Way, Arnold Crescent, Elizabeth Street, Highland Lane. These projects aim to improve transportation infrastructure and citywide mobility. Several trail improvement and enhancement projects are also underway. Additional projects involve developing new park like Miles Hill Parkette and North Leslie Community East, and also upgrading existing ones such as Bridgeview, Breakworks, Lilac Grove, Chapman and Good Brothers, Town and Unity, Melinda Clark, Monticello, and Ozark Park. These park projects continue to improve the accessibility and inclusivity of public spaces in Richmond Hill. For additional information regarding the active projects and ongoing projects during construction or design, please visit these websites or scan the QR codes. You will see all the information that's required, including the scope of work, contact information, and if you have any question, you can reach out to the individual contact person, or you can send an email through this committee. Your involvement and feedback are crucial for creating inclusive public spaces. Let's move to the QA session. Thank you for your time and for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mohammed and Hubert. Greatly appreciated. That was a lovely presentation. Your two departments do such amazing work, and I thank you on behalf of everybody. So if I could have a member of committee move this presentation with thanks to the floor, and then we can have a discussion. Moved by Sherry. Thank you very much. Okay, Sherry, as a mover, would you have anything that you wish to say? Mike?
Hi, thank you for that presentation. I just wanted to note that what I noticed from looking at the photos you provided of the park improvements, it's hard in those photos to see the accessible features. So for instance, I'm thinking very specifically about my daughter that uses a walker and a wheelchair, and the parks that have wood chips are just, I know that's part of AODA, but it's inaccessible to her. So I just think it's worth noting that even though you're trying to build them accessible, you're still missing a big component. It's just not inclusive. And also I really wasn't sure. It wasn't clear what was accessible. Like when I look at this photo you have of the Kozak Park revitalization, can you explain what is the accessible features in that park? And what I'm thinking is, how can we do better if we're going to spend more money this year in 2025? How can we make sure that it is actually accessible for people in wheelchairs and walkers?
Through
Go
you,
ahead.
Madam Chair. Thank you very much for the question. With regard to the wood chip or engineering wood fiber, that according to the standard, that deemed to be accessible. So let me put it in perspective. We have about 170 parks in Richmond Hill. And according to the parks plan, we only provide the rubber surfacing for the community parks and for the destination parks. Let's say roughly about 150 of these 170 parks are local parks, which means we remove the sand, the sand is not accessible for sure, and many of them are sand. So we remove the sand and we put the engineering wood fiber. These engineering wood fibers are designed such a way that after maybe after one season, one winter season, everything will sit and pack and compacted. And our operation team also, they go and visit these sites regularly. If there is any, they will go back and put more of these materials to make sure these are accessible. In a way, as soon as our project is done, there would be a little bit of roller and compaction on top of that to make it accessible. That, according to the standard, deemed to be accessible. Having said that, for sure, rubber surfacing is a better product compared to the engineering wood fiber. The cost is 10 times more throughout the life of the project. And the policy that we have to comply with, and this is not our municipality, other municipalities also follow the same guideline, is that the wood chip or engineering wood fiber would be sufficient for local parks, and the rubber surfacing would be sufficient for the community parks or for the destination parks that they have more usage. Going back to Kozak Park, we mentioned during my presentation, I mentioned that there are few elements that we incorporated in the Kozak Park. For instance, one of them is transfer platform on play structures. And also there is a ramp for the accessible. So most of these new parks that we develop, we try to make as much as possible the trails and the definitely access to the play structures. We built a ramp to make it accessible. These are some features that we incorporated, but definitely there are room for improvements, and we have to strive to make it more accessible. And that's one of the items that definitely is part of our design and construction. Hopefully I answered these questions.
Thank you, Mohammed. That's appreciated. I can understand from a council's perspective about the cost value. But Sherry, are you saying that your daughter cannot navigate that surface at all with her wheelchair or her walker? It's impossible? And for you as well, Simon? Okay. Hang on, we'll get to you in 1 sec.
Yeah, she can't.
No, it's interesting. Okay. Well,
I mean, I certainly will try to take her there and try again. Like, I don't know what you're saying about the surface or it's being packed down, or you're saying like next year it's going to be more packed down in a year. So I don't know if there's a wood chip park that we should go and test out again? Also the ramp, like, I'm just wondering if the picture, is this the ramp at that second level? Like I was trying to figure out where the ramp is that you're saying.
Which slide are we looking at?
It's the one of the grant fund application on the Ozarks Park. I was just trying to understand, you said there's a transfer, which is good, and then there's a ramp. So where is the ramp?
So if you look at the slide number 5, please.
Yeah, that
So
was,
you see on the top left, you see that ramp to the engineering wood fiber. That's similar, although that is some other.
oh, that ramp, okay.
That is the ramp that we make sure that from the trail to the playground, we have the accessible ramp.
Okay, that is helpful.
Anything further, Sherry?
No, thank you.
Okay, if I can, I'll get you in one sec, Simon. Shala is before you. If I may, it's just to follow up on that, Mohammed, do you have the name of a park for Sherry that is close to where she lives in Ward 1 that she can go to with her daughter and see if the compacted surface does really make a difference? Can you look into that and let us know?
Definitely, but you can try Minthorn Park that we just finished. That would be one example, but definitely also Richmond Green is fully accessible, and Richmond Green is another one. Minthorn is one of them that we just finished in Ward 1.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Simon, I'll get to you in just a moment. Shala is next on the list. Sherry, do you have anything further?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We will go and check those out.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Shala, you are next on the list. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for the presentation. I want to start with, it's a two-part question. That's okay?
Of course.
Yeah. The first part is about, I am so happy. Thank you very much for offering that to test now, because now with the Will Lake Cox that, we have a challenge with the washroom, even though it's a really good park, but we have a challenge because there is no all genders washroom, but when it's built, it's really hard. It's good that we are considering it now. I'm happy for that. For my question is more about the washroom. I did not see anything about the washroom, and with the Will Lake Cox, now we have challenges because my husband needs help, and I saw other people, like there was last time when I was a month ago, more than a month ago, it was end of August, I was there was a lady, she needs help, and then her husband couldn't go in. I went in with her to the Will Lake Cox washroom because there is no all gender washroom. So I was wondering if there is any information about the washroom, because these are new, and if we can spend any money or anything now, it's worth it to not have the challenge that we have with Will Lake Cox now. That's one. And the other one is the sign for the chair and tables. I remember a few years ago, I got the appointment and I went and I saw, talked to the mayor in that time regarding the Will Lake Cox, and then they put the sign of the accessibility on the table after it builds. But the challenge is that last August when I was there, some of the sign is ripped. And then I was wondering if there is any way we can put the sign now that they are ordering the tables and everything, because if we put something that is more permanent, because when the people are sitting there, we feel bad to go and ask them to move. And these are two questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shala. Can you be a bit more specific, or I may have missed it at the beginning?
Sure.
Which park are you referring to?
Will Lake Cox has this challenge, but now that Mohammed the presentation, I want to know in these parks that it's one of them is finished and the other one is under the construction. I want to make sure any of these that now that we are building, do we consider the all gender washroom?
And are you the washroom that you are referring to? I would imagine it's the one at Lake Wilcox. Is it an accessible washroom? Does it say
Is
that?
accessible, but is men and female. Because if I have to go and help my husband, I cannot go because they don't have any all gender washroom.
Got it. So all gender or family. Okay,
Yeah.
understood.
Yeah, or
Thank
family.
you.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Shala. Mohammed, can you help us with that? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I will try, and I might need to get back to you because we are, or my section is, we are responsible for capital projects, which means the ones that are programmed as part of the capital projects. Having said that, I definitely check with our colleagues in public work operations and bring this one up. For instance, for Lake Wilcox, I have to get back to you and with respect to the signs on the table and chairs, it definitely is something that I need to check with our public work operations section. These are the
Okay.
two questions that I will get back to you on that. But with respect to the upcoming or the projects that I mentioned, most of these projects are local parks. They don't have washrooms. But the only thing that I can see as part of my list that I provided is the North Leslie Community East. And that one, I have to get to see if there is any washroom. I'm not sure. Definitely, this is one of the items that I will take back and review and see if there is a possibility to provide all gender washroom.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And perhaps so you can also discuss with Councillor Davidson or the Lake Wilcox one, because that's her ward. And if she needs to perhaps put in a motion through council to have an all gender or family washroom installed there, we can certainly see to that also on council through her. Councillor Davidson, I'm sure you heard that. Okay, thank you. Shala, anything further?
Thank you very much. That was all good. Thank you.
Okay,
Hoping
we'll
to get
definitely
that
look into
information.
that.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, Shala.
much.
We'll definitely look
Thank
into
you.
that.
Thank you.
Okay, next on my speakers list is Mr. Simon Waldman.
Not sure if I really wanted to go back to this,
Yeah.
but I'm looking at this picture of the playscape and the structure at Kozak Park, and for all of the funds that were spent, could we not have used a picture on the slide of a structure that looked actually accessible for anybody with a mobility issue?
Which slide are you looking at?
The slide with Kozak Park.
Okay.
It's just, I mean,
9.
I look at this, I go, we're talking about
Slide 9.
we're talking about accessibility, and then we show a picture of a structure that, to my look, from my point of view, if anybody has a mobility issue, is not accessible. It's stairs and fiber, and it would be a nightmare to traverse.
Mohammed, do you have any comment?
Thank you for the questions. This is the best picture that I could find, but definitely I will look into other photos to provide to you. It was just finished, so that's why there are some photos, as I mentioned, that there is a transfer device that is beside the, so if we look at it from the other angle, I could have, now I got the comment, and definitely for next year presentation, I will be more mindful to pick the better pictures.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And also signage, right? It's very, very important. Simon, anything further? You're good? Okay, thank you. Okay, so let me look around here. Anybody else on committee wish to speak to the first? There you go. Councillor Davidson, you're on.
Hey, thank you. I just wanted to let Sherry know, I think, sorry, I don't see your face, so I hope I got your name right. I'm sorry. Minthorn is beautiful park, and you can drive up to Coons Road and turn down, I think it's called Grove. I'll look it up, but it does have chips. Like it does have chips. So even though it's nice to get there, I was there when it opened. It's a beautiful park, but that's why this committee is so valuable, because somebody who doesn't need to have accessibility thinks, oh, look, it's all paved. It's really the problem is once you get there. So anyway, I want to say that I had a meeting with Mohammed and some staff about refurbishment over by why can't I think of the name? By Bond Arena. And there really was an emphasis on making sure that folks had access to the little boardwalk and some of the other things that are coming in the future. So I just wanted to say to this group that your comments do matter. And I do hear them back from staff when we're about to embark. Is it perfect? No. But I definitely feel like it's in the mindset of the planners and the people that do the work, and that they're committed to doing better, honestly. So that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson. That's greatly appreciated. We are also, through me to you, because we are going through our budget cycle at the moment, and I know that we've already discussed capital, but that's also a good opportunity to discuss something like getting an all-gender family washroom at Lake Wilcox, because it would be from capital money. So just putting that little bee in your bonnet. Okay, thank you. So anybody else? Let me see. Sherry, you may go on the second round.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, are there any like wheelchair accessible swings or teeter-totters in the city of Richmond Hill anywhere? Because I've noticed a lot of swings that you have to transfer into, but do we have equipment that you could go into with the wheelchair? Because once a child is about 10 or 12, they get quite big and heavy, and families can't transfer them out. My daughter was at Moraine Hills Public School, and they put in a swing there that I, as her mom, could transfer in, but she went there every day with her community class, but the staff wouldn't lift her into that swing once she was over 40 pounds. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering if there's somewhere in the city that does have an accessible swing or teeter-totter or something that
the child themselves or the young adult themselves can get into themselves.
To go in their wheelchair.
In their wheelchair. I have seen them, but I don't know if I've seen them in Richmond Hill. Mohammed, can you help us? I've definitely seen them.
Yes, we do have them, but I want to say Richmond Green for sure, but
okay.
Why don't I get back to you, because I don't want to provide wrong information, but definitely we do have. It's not many of them, but there are locations. Again, we try to put these kind of facilities where we do have more usage, for instance, the destination parks, such as Richmond Green.
Thank you. I've been watching with a lot of interest, because I drive past it many times every day, the Bayview Hill renovation. It's magnificent, and only looking at it from the street. But that looks like something that's really going to be spectacular. Does that park offer also, just off the top of your head, what kind of accessibility do we have there? That's at Spadina and Weldrick.
Yes, we're almost done for the south section, which is the sport fields, and on the north side we are working on the play structures and almost done. They have some accessible features, but to be honest, I have to get back to you on that as well. There are some accessible features, and going forward, we are trying to incorporate more and more accessible features.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I look forward to that park opening. I'm sure Councillor Liu does as well. It's really quite spectacular. If members of council or even members of this committee haven't driven past it yet, I give it a shot. It's at the corner of Spadina and Weldrick, and from what you can see from the street, I'm in awe. So well done to our staff for that. Sherry, anything further? Second round? No, we good? I see nobody else. Oh, I see Yue Lin is with us. Welcome. Okay, so I just have a few comments and questions. I was also going to speak about the wood chips, so that was good that we discussed that. Mohammed, is it a given that we now design parks and outdoor spaces across the board with specific accessible features?
Generally speaking, yes. But let me give you some examples because I really want the committee to understand what we can do and what we cannot do. I don't want to give a false hope. So for instance, Melinda Clark is an existing park and a section of the ramp or the trail is not accessible. It's 8.3%. And we cannot make it 5%, which is accessible. But what we can do, we can sign it to say, okay, from here to here is accessible, from here to here is not. And there are few point of access. So it's not only one. So there are a few. So at least the public, they can make an informed decision which access they have to take. So that's part of accessibility. So the answer to your question, Councilor Selvets, yes, but that yes means not that everything fully accessible. Accessibility means if you can make it 5%, that's an example. Just build it 5%. If you cannot make it 5%, you have to sign it. So that's what it means. And that's what we are trying to do. Having said that, for instance, we are building the RHD, the Richmond Hill David Dunlop Observatory bridge over CN Rail, and that has trails and bridges. And those trails and the ramp to get to the bridge is 5%. It was very challenging to fit it in, but even the consultant said the best thing is 5.2. I said, no, it has to be 5%. So we try, and accessibility is one of the major factors, but it's not the only factor that we have to consider. We have to think about the environmental impacts.
Yes.
Sometimes, and the trails that I mentioned, most of these trails, we try to avoid steps and make it 5%, but it's very difficult. They are beside the creek and we have to comply with the TRCA regulations and everything else. So that's why, generally speaking, we follow the accessibility guideline, but that has some options for us.
Right. Thank you. It's interesting because I have similar problems with the South Richvale Greenway and Trail because it's not fully accessible. And when you refer to accessible, it doesn't necessarily mean wheelchair or disability accessible. It's also all weather, 365 days, because on the South Richvale Trail, we have some of the bridges there that cannot be cleared of snow. So therefore, they're inaccessible. So accessibility does have many meanings. And I know that we have experienced that with the South Richvale Trail where residents have wanted it open year round. And we just can't, it is open year round, but it's not accessible year round. So that's an interesting point. Can you explain, please, Mohammed, the Lake Wilcox Fish and Wildlife Sanctuary? That sounds absolutely fabulous. What is that?
So I don't know if you remember last year, Simon brought this issue up.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah.
And then we said, okay, we will look into that. This is supposed to be 2025 construction because we have to design in 1 year and construct another year. So what we try to do, we try to expedite this, and we applied for the grant and we got the grant. So this project was done at no cost to the city. And we built the ramp. This is just, and this is a very difficult, it's a small job site, but it's very difficult because we cannot, it is within the TRCA, and also we have to make sure that there is no negative impact to the environment. So we had to come up with a innovative approach, which there is a ramp that it's an aluminum ramp that we built, and there are going to be some signage and there would be some furniture. This is just one of the examples that we try to explore different avenues to come up with the fund with all the financial pressure that we are experiencing, prioritizing accessibility to the best of our abilities.
Right, I see your hand up, Councillor Davidson. I'll definitely let you join in on this. Thank you. And Simon, that shows you, and to all members of this committee and anybody who's listening or watching us online, how important it is for residents to tell us where there's a problem, to inform us, because then we can look at it. And this is the perfect example. And we were able to get the grant and even do it quicker than expected. So thank you very much, Simon, for that. And thank you to our department for getting that done so proficiently. Councillor Davidson, did you want to add something?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask Mohammed, so is it accessibility standard that you have to meet certain benchmarks to be considered accessible? Or is there any leeway for us to do things that are accessible but don't necessarily have the label accessible? For example, if it's too expensive to have rubber at all the parks, could there be a small boardwalk and then the rest of it is chips? Like, can we do small things that make a world of difference to somebody who is using wheels to get somewhere? But even if it doesn't fit whatever the, I'm sure, very high benchmark is for accessibility, is there any little bit of, are there any loopholes or little shortcuts we could still make it accessible?
That's a great question. I was thinking of that as well, like just small, a pathway that can fit a wheelchair or a walker that someone can actually go on, and it doesn't have to be the entire surface. Mohammed?
Yes, and that's why I just again demonstrated that on the slide number 3. There are different sort of regulation and standards. So we have AODA as a like an overall blanket, and then we have the IASR, which is set out the various sort of standards, and then we have our policy procedure. And then we have to, for specific sectors, for instance, for parks, we have standards and guidelines. We have parks plan. So these are the specific guidelines, and we do have standards for the North America that we follow. To specifically answer your question, Councillor Davidson, is that
okay, so I understand if we want to shout, hey, we've made things accessible, we need to meet all these standards. But I'm asking, can't we just do things on the side that make it more accessible without necessarily having to jump through all these hoops? Like, if it's too expensive to do something in an official capacity as accessible, why can't we just have a little bit of a raised boardwalk to a play area that doesn't tick off all these boxes, but for anyone visiting the park, you can use it, and it actually incidentally makes it accessible?
So
it all depends on funding, drainage, and engineering, right?
So I was getting to that point, that these guidelines and they allow us to do things like that. To be honest, your suggestion may not be feasible because we are creating trip hazards for the rest of the children in that area. But that's why the engineering wood fiber is like a scale down of the rubber mat that has been accepted throughout North America. I know there are challenges, and I'm not trying to be ignorant of the challenges that we are hearing, but that has been accepted as a accessible surface. But obviously it's not a perfect solution. Rubber surfaces is another way to do that, but I can tell you that we are not going to be able to afford 170 parks to be rubber surfaces. We have to take a look, and definitely that's a great comment, and we need to think creatively and innovatively to come up with solutions, and that's our mission, to come up with those solutions. And during design, we definitely ask our consultants, our the industry, to see if there is anything that we can incorporate in our parks.
Thank you. I always appreciate how engineers are tied to the rules and regulations to keep everyone safe, 100%. But I also appreciate that you never dismiss stuff completely. You go, we'll kick it around. So I appreciate that. Finally, I just want to ask, in terms of Shala's question about a bathroom at the park in Lake Wilcox. Can't we refurbish something to work rather than always start from ground zero and say we'll have to find the money for, you know, a $200,000 bathroom when maybe we can somehow do something to an existing one to make it work, and maybe it takes away an able-bodied bathroom, but there, you know, you can walk over to the community center and there's a million bathrooms. Like, can't we start doing a little bit more with what we have rather than always looking for extra money?
That's a great question. And that's where perhaps in the future, a motion on your part to staff to
Sure.
look at the feasibility of whether or not that can be done. What is the best way? What is our best way to do that, to perhaps provide anywhere that has washrooms and accessible washrooms, a family and all gender washroom, so that this type of thing can be accessed by everybody.
Thank
so
you,
that's
Madam
just
Chair.
something to think about. Yeah.
I will do that. Thank you. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't
Thank
want to put Mohammed on the spot.
That's okay. Thank you, Councillor. Mohammed, do you have anything to add?
I think, Councillor Davidson, you put me on a spot. And I cannot answer that fully. I'm the construction guy, so it's a teamwork. I have to take this one back to our planning, to our operation, recreations, and also sometimes we have to think about it from the facility management. So this, I need to take this one back and think about it. But definitely one thing that I can tell the committee here, that similar to what we did for the Lake Wilcox, we look for opportunities to find grants, and there are a lot of related grant fund for these kind of projects that definitely we try to take advantage and at least have the money available without going through the actual capital budget that we know we have a lot of pressure on the capital budget, and we try to use some of these funds to prioritize some of these accessibility related projects.
Thank you. That's very good. What I'm also thinking here while I'm listening to all of this, just before we end here, is sometime in the future, if staff could consider having a PIC for parents of children with disabilities, for adults who have disabilities, and for seniors, because that usually falls in the same category. So a PIC is an information center, and that's where the public is invited, and you give your ideas and or tell us things that we may or may not be doing that are not appropriate. So if you could, Mohammed, just think about that, take it to the department, but it might, and we can work through the accessibility committee as well, but it might be very, very effective for our municipality to actually do something like that and get real input from real individuals like Sharla as well with her husband, get real input to say, okay, you know what, if we can fix that, we can fix it, but anything else that we construct that's new, let's look at that. And like you said, innovative thinking outside the box. And as a DEI municipality, I mean, there couldn't be anything more inclusive than doing something like that. So just a thought. Thank you, Mohammed. Okay, so anybody else? Last chance. Councillor Davidson.
I'm sorry.
I can see a lot of waving there. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I do want to ask members of this committee, through you, Madam Chair, if we did do a public consultation, like how could we make things more accessible? Do folks prefer an online consultation, or do they actually prefer physically going somewhere?
Okay, that's something that we'll have to discuss at a future date because it's not on the agenda.
Oh, my apologies. Okay, my apologies. Okay. I'm glad you're keeping me in line.
Our deputy clerk is also waving, so we'll get to that at a later stage, but good point. Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Okay, there's no one here. Anybody else wishes to add anything there? Okay, seeing none. So we have item 6.1 is on the floor, moved by Sherry Caldwell, that the presentation by Mohammed Kashani Manager Design and Construction, and Hubert Ng, Manager Transportation and Traffic, regarding an annual infrastructure delivery division update on active projects be received with thanks. All those in favor? Thank you very much. That's seeing nobody. No, good. Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to item 6.2. Another presentation by Hubert Ng, Manager Transportation and Traffic, and Attila Hertel, Project Manager Transportation Planning, regarding City of Richmond Hill micro mobility strategy. And I'm really looking forward to this one because micro mobility has become a real catchphrase, and there's a lot of pros and cons here. And quite frankly, all I'm hearing from most people, especially our seniors and our disabled population, are the cons. So I really look forward to this presentation and the discussion. So I'll hand it over to you, Manager Ng, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the introduction and having us here today to speak to you about the city's micromobility strategy. I want to highlight that this strategy is still in progress right now and that we are seeking your information and feedback on the project. My name is Hubert Ng, and I'm the Manager of Transportation and Traffic at the city. I would also like to introduce Attila Hertel, who is the Project Manager for this strategy. At the end of the presentation, I would like to seek your feedback on the strategy to consider how it relates to accessibility as this project progresses. We'll start off by discussing what exactly micromobility is. Next, I'll provide a high-level overview of what the strategy entails. Then I will highlight some key opportunities and challenges that relate to micromobility. Next, I'll outline the study's current progress, next steps, and seek your feedback. So what exactly is micromobility? Micromobility is an umbrella term for low speed, lightweight, wheeled mobility devices that are often electrified. Bikes, such as electric bikes and electric scooters. You may have seen them on some of the city facilities in the past few years. I'll note that mobility devices such as electric wheelchairs and mobility scooters are not considered micromobility. The mobility devices, as you're well aware, are intended for use on sidewalks. Another term you may have heard before is shared micromobility. Shared micromobility refers to services that provide public access to micromobility devices, such as bike share and other scooter share systems. Micromobility is a transportation trend that is rapidly growing across the GTA and one that is currently not regulated in the city of Richmond Hill. The micromobility strategy will consider some of the known challenges and guide how the city will regulate micromobility and also sidewalk cycling in the future. Through the strategy, we are looking to understand the benefits and risks associated with micromobility and how to address key concerns, including, but not limited to, accessibility, equity, safety, liability, maintenance, as well as education. From a policy perspective, the Transportation Master Plan recommends the city to develop a micromobility strategy to advance sustainable travel options that support the city's official plan, as well as the community energy and emissions plan. Micromobility can also play a key role in connecting residents to transit corridors, including the existing bus rapid transit services and the future Yonge North subway extension. There are several opportunities when it comes to advancing micromobility, including supporting sustainable and fun travel modes while improving first and last mile connections to transit. Micromobility can also prioritize equity and accessibility by providing cost-effective travel options for residents. While micromobility does provide important benefits, there are certainly challenges that need to be considered and addressed. A fundamental consideration for the AAC is, of course, accessibility. For example, we have heard that improper parking of micromobility devices on sidewalks could lead to tripping hazards. We also heard that it may be difficult for those who are visually impaired to be able to detect micromobility that do not emit sounds. We believe that design and operation of micromobility should consider all individuals, including those with any hearing and/or visual impairment. There are also many other challenges, including speed, traffic safety, maintenance, and liability that the strategy needs to address as the project progresses. Residents have brought forward to our attention that some cycling activities can impact accessibility of the sidewalk and can create conflicts with pedestrians. This slide is to clarify that riding a bike on a sidewalk is actually not permitted as part of the Highway Traffic Act. Municipalities have the option to create additional rules through bylaws. This will be investigated further as part of the strategy. I also want to highlight that children under 10 can ride a bicycle on a sidewalk until they develop the skills to ride on the roadway. The strategy was initiated earlier this year in July and are currently carrying out public and stakeholder consultation to gather feedback to inform this strategy. There will be another round of public and stakeholder consultation early next year for us to present on the draft recommendations before finalizing the strategy and associated bylaws in 2020. Thank you very much for your attention today. Now, I will open the floor to any comments and feedback you may have. If you have any further comments after this session, please feel free to reach out to Attila Hertel or myself if there's any further input. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Greatly appreciate it. Very interesting presentation. And like I said, this has become a very challenging piece that we have to all deal with. And I know I read so much about Toronto and where they've actually banned these on the sidewalks, but people still use them. So there's an enforcement problem here as well, because we can't have a bylaw officer or a police officer on every sidewalk corner to patrol this. So it becomes a very, very challenging problem. And it certainly does concern me as well. So let's get this open to the floor. Simon, you will move this. Thank you very much. As the mover, what are your any comments? Go ahead.
A couple of things. One thing important comes to mind. Like City of Toronto has banned e-scooters, not e-bikes, but e-scooters completely, not just on the sidewalk, on the road as well. But there's zero enforcement. You see e-scooters everywhere. If we're considering regulations in Richmond Hill as to where they can travel, where they can't travel, who will be enforcing these regulations? Are you going to have bylaw officers on every corner? Are you going to have YRP with more than enough to do already enforcing these rules?
That's a very, very difficult question. And I'll give it over to you, Hubert, to help us with that. But it's so challenging for the municipality.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the question. And certainly enforcement is one of the big challenges that micromobility faces. I want to be upfront that we don't have the exact answer here today, but through this project, we are working very closely with our staff in community standards, as well as many other departments to come up with a comprehensive solution at this point. My understanding is that there are other municipalities that are allowing for micromobility to be operated in their municipalities. And we have been carrying out some best practices research to determine how those rules are set and how enforcement is out as well. But thank you for the feedback. This is certainly an important topic for us to consider.
Thank you, Hubert, and I'm sure will be discussed as we move further through the process. Simon, anything further? No, we good? Okay. Anybody on committee who wishes to make a comment here? Not even Councillor Davidson? No? Councillor Thompson, do you wish to make a comment? I see you on screen. Go ahead, sir.
Well, thank you for allowing me to jump in here. It is a very difficult and complex situation, particularly when we're looking at our energy and emissions guidelines as well, and what micromobility can do to assist in that particular area. And particularly when we're talking about that last mile or 2 mile to public transit, this is where micromobility is actually seen as very advantageous in terms of helping us meet our net zero targets of 2050. But again, you know, we're having to work with all departments. It's not just from an environmental standpoint that we have to look at these things. So it's just something that I want to throw out there in mind, is that we really do need to find a solution to allow micromobility to coexist with everyone else, whether it be pedestrians, whether it be with vehicular traffic, that type of thing. It surprises me that there's even talk about removing bike lanes, because that seems to me that this fits the model that we need. So those are just my comments, but it's it is the $1 million question, and trying to find that answer is difficult. So those are my comments. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Councillor. I agree with you. It's like I said right at the beginning, this is a very, very challenging process and a very, very challenging item. And I hope that in the end, we will be able to come to something that is some common line that everybody will be happy with. But I know in my particular ward, I have a resident who is very, very vocal about micromobility and bicycles on sidewalks. And it is, I understand exactly what he's saying and what his fears and concerns are. And I've had a number of residents in Ward 5 who are seniors who have said that they can be almost knocked off their feet by a bicycle traveling down the sidewalk. So these are very, very difficult issues. And I've also seen on your slide with the pictures of all the machines, there's that round thing that you stand on, and just for some magic reason it just goes. And I have seen people, kids really, teenagers, young adults, bombing down the sidewalk or bombing down a bike lane on these things, no helmet on, and sometimes with their earbuds in because they're listening to music. It's terrifying to me, and I am really surprised that, I mean, God forbid, but there have not been more terrible accidents that have occurred. It's quite terrifying. It truly is. But I imagine that you can't, through myself to you, Hugh, but one can't ban a specific piece of mechanism that it's just not permitted at all. I don't know that we can even do that, because as you were saying with Toronto, it's banned outright, but you still see it everywhere. So Hubert, can you tell us, is there anywhere that bans these these machines outright, or as Councillor Thompson was saying, they are. There is the other side of the coin, where they are very important in our green initiatives.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And that is one of the most challenging pieces as part of this strategy, is to find the balance between the rules and regulations to micro mobility, and also balancing the needs of other residents as well. And we're hoping to strike that middle ground to have a comprehensive solution that can help to address some of the known challenges. For example, there are micromobility vendors out there that utilize geofencing technology. And what that means is that they can highlight an area of a sidewalk and restrict.
Or like at a supermarket with buggies, that you can't take them out. They stop working.
Yes, that's correct. And they could be billed if they are left parked in unauthorized areas like sidewalks. And certain solutions like that could help to mitigate some of these known problems. And that's what we are investigating through the strategy.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of that. Thank you. Sherry, I can see that you want to add something. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I've seen these in my neighborhood, and the concern that I have is the speed that they're going, and we've come across them on the trail, and they're on like a scooter, and they're going quite fast. And I do see it as like an accident waiting to happen. If they collide, even with someone walking, or they're just going to have an accident. I've seen someone have a bad accident on a bike going down the trail, Sagon Trail at Tower Hill. There's quite a steep incline into the valley, and some young person went down quite fast and wiped out. So I just worry about, and I guess you can't really monitor their speed, but it's a concern. I know they're taking them, the students are taking them to Richmond Hill High. You see them parked out.
No, it's very difficult. Yeah, no, thank you for those comments. I agree. Larry, I see your hand up. I'll get to you in just one sec. Thank you. I've seen, just as a comment as well, I've seen, and this is so shocking to me, I've seen some seniors in their electrified wheelchairs traveling on the road as opposed to traveling on the sidewalk. I actually stopped one with the orange flag and everything at the back. I actually stopped a gentleman once. I pulled into a driveway and I got out of my car, and I said, like, what are you doing? Like, do you realize how dangerous this is? And you can't travel on the road. You must travel on the sidewalk. And he had a very interesting comeback, and that was sometimes the sidewalks are impassable or inaccessible because they're in bad shape. So they hop onto the road, and if there's no bike lane there, then they're actually on the road. But that to me is also that was shocking. But I've seen that many times on Yonge Street. It's unbelievable. Taking your life into your own hands, never mind when you're in a car. Okay, Larry, you're up next. Go ahead. Unmute yourself, Larry.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that's good. What I've noticed is it's like everything else. People don't want to share, and you can't share the road, you can't share the sidewalk. But I think we're at the stage now where I'm kind of surprised. I've seen some of these e-scooters, and they're even the two-wheeled ones. They're large. They're getting bigger. They're motorized. They go a lot faster than the old ones that the kids used to use, where they'd use their feet for power. And I think it's a problem if they're on the sidewalk. As you said, with people using motorized wheelchairs for pedestrians, these gadgets should not be on the sidewalks. I think they should be on the street in like a bike lane or an imaginary bike lane. I know that Premier Ford has decided that bike lanes shouldn't be allowed on certain streets. And in a way, I understand, put them on secondary roads. Don't put them on Yonge Street. don't put them on bathers. It's dangerous for the drivers. It's dangerous for the people using the scooters. But I don't have a problem with putting bike lanes on secondary roads.
Mm. And I agree with you on that. Absolutely. I can understand Premier Ford's concern about it taking a lane of traffic, and then everybody has to deal with the traffic problems. But to me, I'm horrified by having bike lanes removed, because they are an absolute necessity, as far as I'm concerned, for safety. For anybody who's traveling on a bike or a micro mobile mechanism, you have to have them. So that's another part of the problem that we have to also consider. Thank you, Larry. Anything further?
You're welcome. No, I think that's it for now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just having a good look around. I keep on looking to my left, but there's no one there. Okay, seeing nobody else would like to say anything further. Okay, that's good. So we have 6.2 on the floor, moved by Simon Waldman. That 6.2a, that the presentation by Huberding, Manager, Transportation and Traffic, and Attila Hertel, Project Manager, Transportation Planning, regarding City of Richmond Hill micro mobility strategy be received with thanks. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And again, gentlemen, thank you for your presentations. Before I go to item 6.3, if I may, Mohammed, you're given a lot of questions to come back at a later point. So if you could have a look at all of that and put it together. You don't have to send it one at a time. Put it all together, send it to our deputy clerk or to Stephanie, and then we can disseminate it amongst the committee members. I'd appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have item 6.3, which is the proposed 2025 Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting schedule. So if you look at your, do we have, yes, it is here, sorry. If you have a look at your page 9 of 9, is there any way we can put this up on the screen? I guess not. Can we? Just 1 second, committee. There we go. Thank you. So these are the proposed meeting dates: February, April, June, September, and November, all at the same time, 1:30 hybrid format. Is there anyone on committee that at this point in time would like to make any comments with regards to this? Take a look at the dates. Councillor Davidson, I saw your hand up. Was that just you putting your hand up? Okay. Thank you. Okay. I saw the yellow hand. Okay. So at this point in time, no, there's no concerns. Okay, thank you. So could I have a member of committee, please, to move this forward so we can vote on it? Item 6.3a, that the proposed 2025 meeting schedule for the Accessibility Advisory Committee be approved. All those in favor? Just raise your hands. Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And from your chair, thank you very much to all members of committee and staff. This has been a really, really great meeting. And I can see that our deputy clerk wishes to say something further before we get to adjournment. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Through the chair, if you could just confirm who the mover was for 6.3, please.
Oh, you're right. Who moved 6.3? Councillor Davidson. Thank you. My bad. Thank you. Is that okay? Everything good? All right. So we have one item remaining, which is item number 7 for adjournment. But before we go there, this is our last meeting until 2025. I just want to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever it is that you celebrate with your family and your friends and your loved ones. I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. So if we could now have moving someone on committee to move for adjournment. Who do we have? Larry, thank you very much. Moved by Larry. All those in favor? me see those hands. Thank you very much. Anybody opposed? Nobody. Thank you very much. It carries unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you very much to all members of committee and Councillor Thompson and to all our staff. Thank you very much.